Applications of linear relations. To start off, we're going to review what we know about linear relations. We know what independent and dependent variables are. The independent variable is the variable whose value is known first, so the variable we can't control. The independent variable always is placed on the horizontal or x-axis. The dependent variable is the variable whose value is known second, so you find its value using the independent variable, and the dependent variable is placed on the vertical or y-axis. Rate of change is also another word we are familiar with, and it means the vertical change divided by the horizontal change. The change in the dependent variable divided by the change in the independent variable. Rise over run. Rate of change is another word for it, and variable rate is also another word. And things to remember if we're trying to remember rise, it's like the sun, it's going up and down, and the run, it's like a sprinter. It goes left and right and across, but it doesn't have any vertical movement. If I look at this question here, it talks about Netflix. So every month, Aziza pays Netflix $10 plus $1 per movie she downloads. What's the independent variable? What's the dependent variable? Sorry guys, I lost the highlighter here, and I'd kind of like to have that to show you some stuff. Remember, we talked before about highlighting the important information in a word problem so that we make sure we know exactly what we're solving for. So now that I have the highlighter back, it's talking about every month, and she's paying $10 plus $1 per movie she downloads. What's the independent variable? What's the dependent variable? Well, really, what we're figuring out when we have Netflix is we do two things. We download movies and we pay a bill. And what do we have to do first? We download our movies. So our independent variable is what we're being asked to solve for in part A. I'll underline that. And it's going to be the number of movies downloaded in a month. Whereas the dependent variable is going to be the cost, because the cost depends on the number of movies downloaded. Now, let's keep going. Every month, Aziza pays Netflix $10 plus $1 per movie she downloads. Now, question C is asking, what is the rate of change? So we're looking for the rate of change, which we know is the slope, the variable rate, change in the dependent variable with respect to the independent variable. So how does the cost change with respect to the number of movies we rent or download, sorry? And that's $1. We pay $1 per movie downloaded. Note your rate of change, it has units. What does the rate of change represent in this situation? So what does the rate of change represent? So the key thing we're looking for here is, what does it represent? And it represents our cost per movie downloaded. Notice that when I was doing my answers, I wasn't writing sentences, but you can see when I'm showing you the actual proper answer, I do have sentences there, and we do need to keep in mind that any word problem or application question will always have a sentence answer, and we need to make sure, like right here, that we have our units. Every month, Aziza pays Netflix $10 plus $1 per movie she downloads. What is the fixed cost? We're looking for the fixed cost. What does the fixed cost represent in this scenario? So in part E, we're looking for what the fixed cost is. And in part F, we want to know what it represents. So we've underlined that, so we keep going back to that. A fixed cost is an initial value or a y-intercept. So I have to think about, how much money am I going to pay if I don't download any movies? Well, that's right here. I'm going to pay $10, even if I download nothing. And what does that represent? Oops. It's the amount of money she pays for Netflix, even if she does not download a movie. Does this scenario represent a direct or a partial variation? That's important. Is it direct or is it partial? That's the key thing. I don't have my highlighter. I lost it again. So If I want to know if it's a direct or a partial variation, and I want to explain, well, what happens when I don't download movies? I still have to pay money. So there's an initial value that's not zero. Okay? So that means it's a partial variation. What's the equation that represents this scenario? And what, again, I've lost the highlighter, so I'm just going to underline. We're looking for the equation, and we need let statements. Now, the let statements, ooh, that was cool. It just erased and disappeared. I wonder why. It's fading. Interesting. Anyway, we need the equation. We need to introduce our variables. We know the dependent was the cost per month, and we know the independent was the number of movies downloaded. So I would do let N represent the total number of movies Aziza downloads during the month. Let C represent Aziza's total bill for the month. It's a linear relation, so it gets expressed in the form y equals mx plus b. M is the rate of change, B is the fixed cost, and we already said it costs $1 per movie, so we put a 1 in front of the N, and we pay $10 either way. All right, pages 2 to 3 in your workbook, questions 1 to 3, and have a good night.